festivalcircuit.com and the assistant director of the Oregon Screams Horror Film Festival. Today with me is director Bernadette Speaks and writer, executive producer Mike Lera from the film Imaginist. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks
Thank you
for
for
having
having us.
us.
Yeah, it's great.
And this is going to screen on October 22nd at the Sunshine Mill Winery and Drive-In Theater in the Dalles, right outside of Portland. So this is going to be a drive-in screening. This is going to be a classic horror experience for people. And anyway, yeah, so Imaginist, what is this movie about?
Okay, I'll take it. Yeah, this is a movie about a paranormal experience that one person encounters. It deals with the sin of omission. It's sort of like I Know What You Did Last Summer meets It Follows, and it's basically about what you do if you encounter someone who needs help and is asking for help, life or death situation, and what a lot of us do is just kind of get out of there and not do anything. So it sort of explores that sort of inner psyche that a lot of us kind of relate to and are guilty of. And so this is one young woman's experience that, she's a college kid taking pictures of this homeless community one day and runs into this, street mime and who mimes for money. And so, yeah, he collapses, has a heart attack, can't, she thinks it's part of the show. And, she, like a lot of us, again, just kind of, her impulses take her out of there. She gets out of there, fight or flight. She chooses flight and ends up with some pretty intense surprises that night. Her, along with the other people that were under the sin of omission, if you will, that night. So it all takes place within one night. It's a one night nightmare.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. The interesting thing about her character, though, is the fact that she's very obtrusive. Like, she enters their community without even asking, taking pictures without even asking, right? And so you're in somebody else's community and you don't even
When push
help
comes
them.
to shove, she's now out of the picture.
Right.
Well, that sounds great. It sounds sort of like classic horror, maybe a little popcorny, but it has some heady qualities. I think that sounds great. I want to know what inspired you guys to both write and direct this film.
Well, this film comes from a feature, actually, that Mike
Okay.
wrote, and then he decided to make a standalone short. Mike and I have known each other for many, many years and never really had the opportunity to work together. And so he called my husband, actually, to ask my husband to be on the project. And then my husband pitched me. And then Mike and I talked and decided this was going to be a good collaboration. And interestingly enough, I had never directed horror. I do drama but I really was intrigued by the fact that it was a mime. That's something you never see. I think when we think mime, we think corny, and comedy, like, Charlie Chaplin kind of thing. Many people don't know who Marcel Marceau is, who is a very world renowned mime. So I thought, what an interesting story in this horror genre where we use a mime and kind of reintroduce this form of art, but in this kind of setting, so to speak. So that alone just totally intrigued me. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. And then once we got on set and we were doing everything, to direct horror is so much fun. I cannot tell you. I had a ball.
That's always the thing, It's like the scariest movies have the most fun crew experience, And I have a photo here, presumably of that mime character, and
it
looks so awesome. I'm getting like kind of Carnival of Souls vibes. There's just what great design there.
Yeah, that is the renowned Lauren Salm plays the mime, and he was directly a protege of Masao Masao.
Wow.
And so this guy, Lauren runs his own mime movement coach studio out here in Los Angeles, and very popular, very does a lot of coaching to a lot of famous actors as well. But for me, what inspired me to write this piece was actually based on a short story I wrote some years back, and I've always been a big fan of the classic horror movies and stuff,
yeah.
like especially Lon Chaney, the black and white Phantom of the Opera, those kind of things. Frankenstein. Then fast forward to Freddy Krueger and Pennywise, the dancing clown, and strangely, and oddly, there's never been a horror film I've seen about a mime.
Right.
We've seen clowns and jokers, but no mimes. So I figured, what, let's cap on that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's
so
a weird absence from the canon.
yeah.
Isn't it? I know. But again, I think it's just because people think comedy. They
Right.
and they think stripes, and the beret and the white
Right.
makeup and all that, so they don't think, oh, let me put this in horror. So it's kind of cool that Mike's script is kind of like an introduction to it all. Yeah.
Totally. Well,
Yeah.
there's sort of like a silent, composed elegance when you do see a mime
Yes.
performance. What was it like working with an actor who's so skilled in this art form?
He was a gem. He was so had such a collaborative spirit, and definitely I told him, hey, I never worked with a mime before, so I highly respect you. This is what I'm thinking. So we talked a lot about my thought process of what I wanted him to do, just kind of how we're going to bring this across. And then there were like beautiful things that happened, that always happens when you're doing filmmaking. Like, he happened to be standing in a certain spot and there was this wonderful shadow. And I was like, let's get the shadow, or he was, he just kind of had this spirit of, I'm game, and so that made everything so much more easier. And he also had an extremely tight schedule because he actually was doing a conference on Saturday, right in the middle of our shoot. But he again had this very professional attitude, like, hey, let's knock it out, let's get it all done before I have to leave. And that just made the whole experience and process so much easier. And he was sinister when I needed him to be, and innocent looking when I needed him to be. It was just great. I was like this the whole time he was doing this. I was like, oh, this is so beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I think just to add to what Bernadette was saying, you're just a total professional, Eric. You can from this, on time. He's like right on time. And there was no, I'll be over here, and just call me when you need me. He was always right there for us, ready to do what needed to be done, because he was a centerpiece. That really, if you don't have the mime going right, it's not going to work. So he was definitely the centerpiece, and just a breath of fresh air. At the same time, Eric, I'm sure he'll tell you this if he was here. He's not afraid to challenge you. You know what I'm saying? He definitely, from pre-production to production to even post-production, he's very meticulous. He's very precise on what he wants. And he's got a high bar of what he needs.
Yes. He definitely contributed to stepping up everybody's game, which I thought was awesome. You know what I mean? And but that kind of comes in his art form, right? Being a mime is very precise because you're painting this picture and you're showing the world things with nothing there, and it's all based on your movement. So it just makes sense that he carries that through the rest of his projects that he works on. So
Totally. Well, it sounds like you guys had a pretty excellent production experience with this, and it seems like you guys had a good cast and crew there. Is there anything you learned from this process that you can take away?
I'll start off with that one. Well, two things. One, I think I'm going to probably count the cost more when it comes to self-financing and assuming that executive producer role. When you and again, it comes with experience. I'm saying, whether you're trying out something for the first time, it's not something I would ever do again. Is self-finance. Lots of responsibility, a lot of, but I learned so much in doing that, because you're forced to take it on different roles and facets. So, but that's one thing I've learned in self-financing and being executive producer, is that's not something that's for me, but I'm glad I did it though. And I think secondly and lastly is just what I've learned was to not be afraid to take on other roles, not just as a financer, but things like getting involved in the editing process, getting involved in production, getting involved in acquiring the talent that's needed and stuff. You know, just wearing different hats. Because I mean, my soul soul skill as a writer. You know, but sometimes in order to get stuff on film, you're forced to take it on other roles in order to get there and stuff. You know, so there you go.
Yeah, he acted in it. He was one of the
Yeah,
actors.
Oh,
I
nice.
was Cartman Ray. I was a homeless guy pushing cart.
Nice. Well,
First,
it seems like
yeah.
a great thing to have the script written and then also just to be on the ground and like doing what you can to get it produced. And
Yeah. I think when you're doing independent, whether it's a short
mhm,
form or long form, you have to have people that are willing to collaborate and wear different hats. You have to, because you're not putting all the money into, let me have a massive amount of crew. You're putting it in other areas and, you know, post and this and that. I think
totally.
one of the things that I learned is your crew is, you know, as a director, you're the captain of the ship. So, but you need to have a crew that you can trust, that trusts you, right? That can like kind of go with the flow and help. If there are fires that need to be put out in regards to, say, for instance, like Eric had a time constraint. So my AD, my DP and I, you know, and Mike, we had to kind of make sure that we utilize the time wisely, you know, because we had a very limited amount of time and we were kind of just thrown that we were thrown something else where, you know, other people who we thought were professional, you know, wasn't necessarily professional, and we had to kind of fill that gap. And but not letting it teeter the boat, you know, like being able to
Totally.
still steer the boat and make it smooth as you're trying to deal with things that come up, and being very not have a temperament that pops off, but being very calm about it, because what it does is it makes the work environment a lot better and people want to work with you again. And you got to remember that we're doing this because, one, we love it, and then two, we want to have fun, you know. And
Totally.
so that was like huge for me. And we had a decent sized crew too. We had like 27 people, which is pretty decent for a short form
Absolutely.
project, you know. I will say that Mike is even though he doesn't want to do it anymore, he was an excellent executive producer. He knew where to put the money, and he was very thorough with it, and we stretched all of it, you know, to get the best production that we possibly could. So he's really good at it. He, you know, even though I don't want to do it anymore. So
That's great. You knocked it out of the park, and now you're like, all right, career's over on that front. That's awesome. Well, yeah,
right.
and I really admire that idea of you know, the director as the captain of the ship being calm. It does radiate to the whole crew, and that can't be easy. It cannot be easy, but I admire that you learned that lesson. And I wonder, it sounds like you guys you know, had a good time on set. Are there any fun production stories? Either something hilarious that happened or something bad that happened that's only hilarious in hindsight. But anything come to mind there?
Got anything, Berg?
Well, we lost our set designer in the
Mm.
middle of the show. Where we're like,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah, you know,
okay. And then, but this young lady stepped in, and she and I stepped in, and I think Antoinette stepped. Like a lot of us were like, okay, we're gonna figure this out, you know, which was interesting. My husband and I realized that we don't work well with him being my DP and me being the director. We actually we actually were like, you know what, it's better for you to be my AD and me being the director. So that's what we did on our next project that actually Mike was a producer on as well. So you kind of even learn like you know, like we're having this power struggle in the middle of a shot, and I'm like, what is happening right now, you know? And then somebody whispered, well, it is like 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, well.
That's true. So, you know, yeah. But I'm still married, and so
There you go. Good.
yeah,
We made this film together. It's perfect.
yeah. I just echo what Bernadette said. You know, it was we had an issue with one person on set. It was the production designer, and it was a tough situation. It was one of those things. Again, you learning as I go in the process and stuff. You know, it was pretty heated. Thankfully, we took it out in the driveway where, you know, no one could really hear us and stuff.
Yeah.
This guy was screaming, you know, and And we almost went to Fifth City a little bit there, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
nobody
And you-
really knew about it
and-
except those in the living room, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Bernadette was filming. Bernadette was filming. She might have heard. She tells me she never heard it, but I think she did. She had to. She had to. The whole community had to have heard it
Oh,
around.
geez.
But he went off.
I'll never tell. I'll never
Yeah.
tell.
He went off on me. Oh, it was just crazy. But of course, it was over money and stuff. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
For sure.
needless to say, he was paid. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But again, I mean, it just a lot of stuff that wasn't in the contract. And I'm like, oh man. But it's like one of those things which you got to make sure you got to think about the crew and finishing
Right.
up and getting things settled right there. Because if things blow up on the set. What are you
Right.
gonna do? The show must
sure.
go on. So
Yeah.
But
I remember this other story, right? Mike went. Well, it definitely wasn't funny then, but it is funny now.
There you go.
it's funny now,
Where our costume designer overslept, and
Oh, yeah.
we were like, where's the costumes? And he was so apologetic, and he was so and nobody gave him beef about it, because we were up really late the night before. But it was kind of like the thing where we're like, okay, so we set up, strategically how we're going to shoot this day, because we know we only have Eric for a certain amount of time, and everything is like working, and then we go, okay, so go put your costume on. And Eric is like, I don't have it. And I'm like, where's the costume designer? And but he's a sweet man, and he made up for it, and we got it done. And so it's like things like that where you're just like, oh, okay,
Right.
and
Life
there's how much you
happens.
can do. Life happens, and then you got to figure out, well, what can I shoot instead of sitting around waiting?
Right.
What can I get done? And we were able to get some shots off where we didn't need Eric, and I got some B-roll that's actually in the movie. So
nice.
Yeah, you gotta.
Well, that's the beauty of independent
flexible.
productions. Just kind of going with the flow. I mean, it's the beauty and the struggle, but it's great when it works out as well as you guys have made this film here.
Yeah.
I want to know, what do you each have next? I know, Mike, you have the feature version of this. What are you guys working on now?
Yeah, there is a feature screenplay of Imaginist, which I've been optioning out and stuff,
Cool.
And then what do you call it? I'm just not finishing up a short film called The Shell that I wrote and produced. And what else? Can you still hear me?
Oh, yes. It looks like your camera went a little weird, but I can still hear you.
My camera went awry. But anyways, yes. And I currently have a short film called what do you call it? Imaginist is currently doing the short film circuit in
festivals
right now, making its rounds. One in Oregon Screams, yay!
Yay!
Can't wait for that. And I guess lastly, a short film I have called Frames is now going to be in the streaming circuit, and live streaming platforms, those kind of things. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Well, and what about you, Bernadette? Are you sticking to horror now? Are you converted to all horror all the time?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. I did a horror film of my own that I was mentioning that Mike was a producer on, called Provoke. We put it in a 48-hour film festival.
Nice.
And we won Best Audience Award, which was really cool. And that did its festival circuit, and we did pretty good. We got semi-finalists in like 4 different festivals, and then we won a festival. So I was really, really happy with that. When you do something for 48 hours, you don't really know, you try to complete it as much as you can. And, I just kind of wanted to see what it would do. But I am in post-production for a more thriller type. It's in the horror genre, but more thriller, right? And it's called Happy Place. So we're in post-production for that right now. And then I did write a short called Diagnosed that Mike and I have been talking about. And hopefully I will be working on that by the beginning of January. So, yeah.
Awesome. A lot on your guys' plate. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. Is there any final things you'd like to say about Imaginist?
Watch it.
Watch it.
Yes,
go for it.
Awesome. Well, it's going to be screening October 22nd at the Sunshine Mill Winery and Drive-In Theater. So it's going to be up there.
I'm so
in
excited
the
about
Oregon
that
night sky.
drive-in. Oh my
Yes, yes. I love
gosh.
Oregon. I love
Well,
Oregon.
this is the perfect place to christen the mime character as the new horror villain great.
Oh, I absolutely think so. Hmm.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.